Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about something super lame, so yay. If you clicked on this video, you already read the title. I have a syndrome or an allergy, whatever you want to call it, called Alpha-Gal syndrome, and I suck at explaining what it is, so I'm going to leave a website down in the description that explains it way better than I do. I've had this syndrome since I was 17. I'm 23 now. I was told that it's supposed to go away within 6 years if you don't get bit by another tick. But unfortunately, 2 years ago, I was bit. I lived off-grid, and I was bit by... I pulled ticks off myself every single day. But I ended up getting Lyme disease, simultaneously having Alpha-Gal syndrome. I'm making a video about this because a lot of people don't know what it is, and that can put people with this in danger, and it can put you in danger to getting it. So, yay, let's talk about my experience with Alpha-Gal syndrome. So, like I said, I got it when I was 17. I was bit by a Lone Star tick. I remember being bit by one of these ticks, and I was in another state for the summer. I live in the United States, and that's prevalently where it is. I'm probably saying the wrong words. That is mainly where it is the state that I was in. And I remember getting bit by a Lone Star tick. I was playing in some cow woods, and these ticks, they feed off of mammals, and then they bite you and they give you some kind of sugar molecule, and then every single time your body ingests it, it makes you react to it. So anyways, like I said, I'm going to leave a link below so that you guys can actually read about it, because I'm not sure how it works. All I know is that I got bit by this tick. This tick made me have deadly reactions to all mammal, like red meat, gelatin, dairy, all of the super good American diet. So when I was 17, I got bit. I didn't know, I didn't think about the fact that I got bit until I was really sick and the doctor was asking me questions. But I struggled until I made an appointment. Saw a doctor. They sent me to an allergist because I complained that I was having issues after meals. And with Alpha-Gal, you typically have a reaction 4 to 6 hours after consuming a meal. So the reaction typically involves, it's different from a typical allergic reaction, but I would ingest something that was red meat. Say I had bacon, or actually I had an obsession with steak at the time. I loved steak. Steak was my favorite food ever. And I remember, or barbecue. I loved meat. I was a very, very foodie person. But anyways, I had meat. I went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt like I was dying. I did not know it was anaphylaxis at the time. I was just like, wow, this is really horrible. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's happening. But I remember I felt super nauseous. I felt very hot all over. My skin got really clammy and pale. And then I would just faint. I'd just pass out, black out. I was sweating and burning up and freezing at the same time. Usually I would have to go to the bathroom and throw up at the same time. And my solution to this at the time, which I did not have regular access to a doctor. I've grown up in poverty my entire life. I've never had access to regular doctors, regular anything like that. So basically what my family's always done is tough it out, right? So I'm in the bathroom, I'm dying. My sister, my brother, whomever it was at the time, because it happened on multiple occasions, I'm like, turn on the shower. They're putting the shower on freezing cold, and I'm getting in that shower and I am burning up in this freezing cold water, trying to feel better, trying to figure out, I'm burning up, so I'm gonna make myself cold. We're getting this cold water. And then after a few hours it would tone down, and then eventually I stopped eating. I was like, I'm not eating food anymore. I'm done with it. I went down to chicken and rice. That was all I would eat, chicken and rice. And then at some point I stopped eating chicken too, and I just did mushrooms and rice. Sorry, I said that like I do mushrooms. No, I ate mushrooms and rice, and that was it for a really long time. Eventually I did go to an allergist, and they tested me for a bunch of allergies, and I tested positive for alpha-gal syndrome. And the doctor didn't really know what that was. The allergist didn't really know what that was. So it was kind of like a figure out by yourself. I knew what I had, but I didn't really know what it was. And there has been a ton more research in the last 6 years since I've had this. But I was basically told just don't eat dairy and don't eat red meat. And that sounds so easy. Like, right? It sounds so easy. And then you go to the grocery store and milk is in everything. Gelatin is in everything. Like, it was very hard for me to find foods that I could have. And so I would just have like breakdowns in the grocery store, and I would just pitch a fit. I was so upset because I was just hungry. I just wanted to eat. And my mom really struggled with it. She didn't really know what I could and couldn't have. You know, it's hard enough being the person with the allergy who has to be careful, but then when your family has to help you and they have no idea how to figure out what foods have this, what foods don't have that, it was very hard. And especially being in poverty, like, oh yes, I'm gonna go buy me some fake Cheetos. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not gonna eat that stuff because you don't have the money to pay Cheetos $2 bag, Cheetos $6 bag. Fake Cheetos versus real Cheetos, which one's cheaper? Like, I'll deal with the stomach pain. So there was a while there where I would just consume foods that I was not supposed to have anyways. And then I started having deathly reactions to them. I went to the hospital, I want to say maybe 4 times. Going into anaphylaxis, the doctors didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I had an EpiPen, but I wasn't shown how to use it. I didn't understand it, so I was too scared to use it. It says to go to the doctor after you administer the EpiPen, but I was too scared to use it. I wasn't educated on any of it, so I was like, I don't want to. I was okay with whatever happened to me. I didn't feel like I had another choice. So my experience with it at first was very difficult, very isolating. And the reason that I'm making this video is I've had it for 6 years. And just recently, I am starting to have airborne. It's so horrible to say because it doesn't sound real to me. I'm having airborne reactions. If someone is cooking barbecue and I smell it, I'm starting to go into anaphylaxis. I know I'm laughing, but it makes me want to cry. If I cry at all, I'll cut it out. Like, cut it out of the video and won't stop crying. I'm starting to have airborne reactions, and I think it's really important to share what alpha-gal is because a lot of people don't know what it is, so this puts my life in danger. They're trying to pass a bill right now that makes it the number 10 allergy, where you have to list it on groceries so that it's safer for me to buy foods. But anyways, I've started having airborne reactions. I went to a family member's house the other day to have breakfast and move some furniture. She didn't know that I was going to be coming over. She thought it was just going to be my brother and my boyfriend. And she was making bacon. And I didn't know this. And I walked through the door and I was like, oh no. I felt like I felt super anxious. These are the symptoms that I experienced. I felt super duper anxious. I felt like impending doom. I've read that before that you can, but I didn't. It sounds horrible, but I didn't believe it. I was like, oh, you're very anxious. You're very anxious because you have alpha-gal. Like, I've read it online from other people. I've never met anybody else with it. But anyways, I started to have this like severe feeling of like fear, like severe fear. And then I started going to anaphylaxis. So, my legs and my arms felt very wobbly. I felt my throat closing and my face started swelling up. I went out to the car, and I don't like to bother people. Look, a bee! There's a bee in front of the camera. Baby, I'm trying to record a video. Can you please not? Anyways, I stayed in the car, and I really don't like bothering people about things, so I was like, you know, I'll just sit in the car and deal with it. And then it got worse. It got worse. I got my EpiPen, and I sat and I waited for that feeling of me going to, like, that feeling of all those years ago when I had actually ingested it. I was waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it, and it never happened, so I didn't use the EpiPen. But I laid there in the back of the car. It was so embarrassing. It's such an embarrassing illness too, because nobody understands. It looks like you're being over dramatic over food. And I just sat there, and I was so embarrassed. I know some other people saw me, and I couldn't walk, and my speech was slurring, and it was very scary. And that's from smelling bacon being cooked. A few hours later, they moved the furniture, my body went back to normal, and I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and we were going back to this person's house, and she opened all the windows, she turned on fans, she had the whole place, like, getting the air to circulate out of there. She didn't know I was going to be there, so she wouldn't have been cooking it had she known I'd been on the way. And so I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go in here and use the bathroom. I went back in the house to use the bathroom. I covered my face. I went to the bathroom. I kept my face covered while I used the bathroom. And then I ran out. I got to the car, and my whole body started breaking out in hives. And I still have bumps all over my face right now, and my face is still swollen. And this was yesterday. So now I have airborne reactions. And I knew that I had alpha-gal, and I knew that that was a possibility. Now imagine someone who doesn't know they have it. I have to tell people about it because they have to know. Somebody has to say something whether or not it's embarrassing or not. So, yeah. There are support groups. On Facebook, there's some support groups, and on Reddit, there's some support groups where people talk about it. There's things that you can get signed in your county or in your state to help move forward more research, getting it to be listed as an allergen. Important things to do are when you go on hikes, any time of the year, check yourself for ticks. Or, even better, spray yourself down with something so they don't get on you at all.